I'd like to have a 6-ounce homemade with cheese.
Mark Davidson doesn't often eat out like this anymore. It's the salt, he says. He comes here because the cooks have a light touch with the salt shaker. So, how has that worked out so far?
So this is a list of all the restaurants that you assessed.
Researchers at the University of Toronto looked at the menus of 61 Canadian restaurant chains and compared how much salt their dishes contained in 2010 and 2013.
I try watching my salt, and I always ask if they can make something without salt.
Barbecue sauce?
Over the last couple of years, the restaurant industry has faced more and more pressure to limit sodium, but any efforts they've made have been voluntary.
What if your next fast food meal carried the same chemical profile as a battlefield smoke grenade? In this video, we're not talking calories or salt. We're exposing PFAS, phthalates, and potassium bromate, the compounds linked to cancers that Europe and Asia already banned, but US chains keep serving.
Fast food and takeout. It's cheap, it's easy, it's tasty. And it's often loaded with sodium, a major factor in the growing epidemic of preventable health issues. The goal? To lower each American's current average daily sodium intake by roughly 12%, from 3,400 to 3,000 milligrams a day. And even that is still higher than what the government really recommends, which is why the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on Wednesday issued new guidelines calling on chain restaurants and packaged food companies to set sodium reduction targets over the next 2.5 years.
Which chains are the worst offenders, and why does one Whopper wrapper read like a chemical weapons report? Stay locked in. We're about to map out the top 5 restaurants most likely to load your body with cancer risks. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
Dangers of sodium is too much actually, we know, impacts the kidney. So that's going to affect our blood pressure, and we have an explosion of high blood pressure.
A study published in the CMAJ found that sodium levels decreased in about 30% of foods, increased in about 16% of foods, and stayed the same in about 54%. In other words, their food is almost as salty as ever.
Especially high blood pressure that's uncontrolled and that's undiagnosed.
Nearly half of all Americans have high blood pressure, a leading cause of heart attacks and strokes.
The fast food field is a front line. On the surface, you see buns, fries, wrappers, and trays. Beneath it, you face hidden units, chemical compounds masked as harmless allies. Every logo shines like a flag, but inside those kitchens, the battlefield is set. You walk in for a burger, fries, or chicken, and what you carry out is far more than calories. You carry an arsenal of compounds that were never meant to be eaten. Those compounds act like silent squads embedded in food systems. They have names you don't hear at the counter: PFAS, phthalates, and potassium bromate. PFAS are forever chemicals, designed to resist grease and moisture like armor coating. Phthalates soften plastics so packaging bends and flexes without breaking. Potassium bromate, a flour additive, inflates bread to perfect volume while leaving a chemical wake. None of these add taste. None of these add nutrition. Their mission is to aid logistics, fresher looks, smoother handling, longer shelf life. But their side effects are linked to cancer, hormone disruption, and organ stress. 3 units, 1 battlefield, each lodged in a meal you thought was safe. Now here's the tension. These same compounds are already banned or restricted in other territories. Europe, China, and India saw their threat level as unacceptable and took them out of play. But in the United States, the system still clears them for active duty. Industry tactics rely on outdated rules and limited oversight. While allied nations cleared the chemicals from their ranks, American chains continue to deploy them across every region. You may think you're eating the same meal as someone overseas, but the chemical war kit differs entirely. The clearest example is Burger King. Independent tests tracked Burger King packaging and found a Whopper wrapper carrying 249.7 parts per million of organic fluorine, a marker for PFAS exposure. Think of it as a toxic camouflage shield pressed against your food. Then the bread bun arrives armed with potassium bromate, inflating softness not with yeast but with a compound tied to cancer in lab tests. Layer on top a phthalate presence running 30% higher than rival averages. Burger King doesn't only serve flame-grilled patties, it fields a 3-unit formation of chemical forces. But then McDonald's marches in, not with one weapon but with a network strategy. Their supply chain acts like a logistics convoy delivering broad exposure. PFAS coat the packaging from fries to sandwiches. Lab scans detected phthalates in 81% of product samples taken. Potassium bromate hides in certain buns. Instead of a single strike, McDonald's functions like a distribution hub, feeding chemical payloads through its vast, well-timed routes. Each meal order scales that exposure across millions within minutes. Meanwhile, Wendy's enters with a sharper spike. Testing pointed out chicken nuggets carrying nearly 10 times the phthalate load compared to rival chains. Why? The contamination vector traces not only to packaging but also to handling systems. Oils and fryers, conveyor belts, and contact surfaces move these chemicals into the final product. The nuggets act as sponges, absorbing residues from every stage of processing. When you dip a Wendy's nugget, you may also be dipping into a far deeper pool of hidden compounds. Here comes Arby's. While its roast beef image feels unique, the chain revealed one of the highest PFAS scores ever measured in fast food packaging. Cookie bags tested at 457.5 parts per million. That's not a snack sack, it's a chemical shell. Layer bread, meat, sauce, and dessert, and the risk stacks like armor plating inside a tank. Arby's earns the code name, Chemical Sandwich Shop. KFC closes the roster with a triple threat deployment. Biscuits laced with potassium bromate. Wrappers coated in PFAS. Fried chicken flagged with high phthalate transfer. Together, they build a chemical cocktail with a side of gravy. This is not an isolated casualty. It's the full system baked into the menu. Every bite is touched by one or more compounds, no matter what you order. Here's the payoff. Just one fast food meal can spike a higher phthalate load than an entire week of home-cooked meals. Picture that, the ambush happens in a single sitting. You expect a cheap, quick dinner. What you actually get is a tactical strike against your body's defenses. That's the real battlefield, one you walk into without ever seeing the guns. Now you know the offenders. The next step is preparation. If you want to stay ahead, the mission becomes learning the countermeasures, strategies to limit exposure and regain control of your food supply lines. What would you do when the enemy is already on your plate? Fast food is not just fuel. It is a chemical war zone where packaging and additives hide like mines under every wrapper and bun. Each bite can carry exposure tactics that strike long after the meal ends, chipping at health like slow artillery fire. Your best defense is control. Treat these meals as rare missions, not daily rations. Cook at home, reduce contact with chemical-laced wrappers, and know which battlegrounds you're entering. If you want the tactical edge to spot these risks, subscribe now. And here's the challenge. What chain do you believe is the most dangerous battlefield? Comment your choice below.